or even the tree of life is difficult. But we have a situation here to where Baal Salam has put things in such a manner for us.
We start welcome again.
Now?
Yes, everything's good, thank you.
Well, apparently we have some more technical difficulties. I do apologize. This is the terminology course where we explain the Kabbalistic meanings, actually the Hebrew words that we use, and sometimes some of their Kabbalistic meanings in a light manner here. It is not a course in Kabbalah, nor was it meant to be. And at the same time, it provides you with sort of a key to understanding the terminology and the different words that are used that you just don't get to see very often. What these words mean and what they represent are not from this world in any way, shape, or form at all. And they are meant for something very, very far beyond this. And I want to start out with reading an intention here. Although everyone feels as though they know what spirituality is, they have, in fact, no connection with the spiritual world or even any idea of it. They think that the spiritual world can be understood through music, science, or popular psychology. But the spiritual world can be understood only through the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is a clear and concise method that must be taught by a genuine spiritual guide. No music or any dubious psychological experiences can help one attain the spiritual world. So, answer a quick message here. And pardon our adjustments here because we had a kind of a late start in getting together here. But I think we have it all together now and ready to rock and roll, save one small event. There we go. Now, we've gone through a lot of different words in the two lessons that we had, but we have several more to go through. And you're going to hear a lot about these words and what they mean in the lessons, especially the lesson today. It's an important lesson. The lesson at 6:30 is on the world of Nikudim. Why? Because the world of Nikudim is a replica of the world of Absolute and Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. It's why Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya are born. Absolute is the world of correction. It is the method in which the creature can attain an equivalence of form with the Creator. And so this lesson coming up is very important, but we went through something. There's a term called Nekudat Disag. Everyone found out last week that Nekudat actually means a point. And in truth, if we have a partsuf that has Rosh, Tok, and Sof, and we spoke about this, that it had 5 levels to it. Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Zeranpin, and Malchut. That as the light enters the partsuf, as the Or Pnimi enters the partsuf, and the Or Hozir is affecting it, the Masach that was here at the peg gets pushed down to here, At least we can look at it that way for now. And then what's going to happen? Then we go back to the potato chip example, where it isn't that someone gave me a potato chip to eat, and I ate it, and I said thank you very much as they walked off. It is a situation where they gave me the potato chip, and I said, that tastes good, and they turned around and laid the entire bag in front of me and walked off. I originally had eaten that potato chip because it was from my friend, and I wanted to please him. But now, I enjoyed the potato chip. It tasted just right. It was one of those kettle chips, really good. And there's a whole bag of them sitting right there in front of me. So this is what I want now. But I don't want it to please my friend. My friend's gone. My friend doesn't care whether I eat them or not. And so, obviously, I grab the bag and I rip it apart. The chips fly everywhere, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to devour them immediately because it's what I want. I want the pleasure from the chips. So, in our Partsuf, that's what's happened to us here. We have the Or Panimi, kind of like the potato chip, the taste of the potato chip. And then we have the Or Makif. And the Partsuf says, what's the purpose, remember, behind the Partsuf? The Partsuf is for one thing and one thing only, and that is receiving in order to bestow the Creator. In other words, its goal is to bestow to the Creator. How's it going to do that? Well, it knows that the purpose of creation, the purpose that we're created for, is so that the Creator can do good to His creatures, to provide His creature with infinite pleasure. But I got a problem. I feel shame when I accept the Creator's pleasure, and so I choose to accept it differently. I'm going to accept it only under the express condition that I'm accepting it in order to fulfill the Creator's need to please me, not my own. So, I take it all in, and now I have this express condition that I'm the only one that's going to be pleased. Pardon me, that the Creator's the only one that's going to be pleased, except for the fact that I will receive some pleasure, I will taste it, if that in itself too pleases the Creator. So only as a tool to please the Creator. That's it. That's all. But I take in that amount of pleasure, and it feels fantastic. It's perfect. It's just what I wanted. But now, there's pleasure waiting on the outside of me saying, oh, you have got to take in more. Did you notice how much that pleased you? And you and I both know that the Creator wants you to take in that pleasure. The Creator's dying for you to accept that pleasure. It's His entire purpose for you to accept that pleasure, and you take that pleasure. In other words, it's very, very, very convincing. So what must the Partsuf do? The Partsuf has to say, whoa, I can't stand this any longer. I'm going to have to purify myself to where I no longer sense this pleasure or the giver, because I can't stand it. It's too strong. And my entire purpose is only to please the Creator, and I'm getting ready to break the rule that I set. And so the light starts exiting. And you might remember it exits one level at a time. One level at a time. One level at a time. Really what's happening here are there are individual zivugs. Remember, that's the coupling between the light and the vessel. And there are individual zivugs that are occurring at each step, at each phase. These individual, tiny individual partsufim, not tiny by our standards, of course, they're massive by our standards, but by the Kli standards, they're small. These small individual sub-partsufim are called nekudat. Nekudat. That's what those are. They're small little bitty partsufim on each level with its own rosh, tok, and sof. And the zivug is recurring. In other words, the light doesn't withdraw from the partsuf all at one time. The light withdraws per section. First Malchut, then Zerampin, then Bina, then Chokmah, and finally Keter. Is the way these are happening. Now the light's actually moving up each time, and so it's actually, as we've learned in the class, you have Yechida, Haya, Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh. And that light comes in like if we have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Haya, and Yehida. What it's doing is, it's coming in one level at a time. And that's the way it exits. Yehida exits first, then the light of Haya exits, then the light of Neshama exits, then the light of Ruach, and finally the light of Nefesh exits. Everything moves up a notch each time. This is how the light enters the talk, and it's how it exits the talk. So, these small little partsufim of each section are called nekudat. Now, you all also remember that we had Galgalta, and then another partsuf was created that was called Ab, and then another partsuf after that light exited that was called Sag, and as the light was exiting here, it reached where it had something called Hitlabshut, the power of the light, the quality of the light, and Aviut being the same, level 2 and level 2, meaning that of bestowal. Now you remember this part down here called the Sof, where no light can go. Now we've got both. Why couldn't it go there? It couldn't go there because it's egoistic down there. So what's it going to do? It's going to just leave this blank until this circumstance arises that we looked at last week. And the light says, whoa, I got an idea. I got an idea. The creature says, I'm going to send that 2-2 light down there and build a partsuf here in the goof with these two special characteristics based upon Hitlabshut of 2 and Aviut of 2. And so it does that, just that. It builds a partsuf. And this partsuf is called, what were these inner partsuf called? Nekudat. And what's this main partsuf called? Sag. It's called Nekudat di Sag. Di is actually Aramaic. It means of. It is not Hebrew. It means of. The term Sag actually comes from Gematria. For now, just consider it like not really a word, but a name. That's the easiest way to consider it. Not necessarily a Hebrew word, but a name. A name, like Mike. Let's go to a new word here. We've gone through the word partsuf. You know what a partsuf is? Yes? But there's another word called partsufim. Now, I would normally spell this, if I was going to spell it, in what we call Heblish. In other words, using English letters to spell out a Hebrew word phonetically. I would use 2 E's, actually. But in all of our materials, it's Partzufim. Partsufim. What does it mean? It means more than one partsuf. More than one. Now don't forget what a partsuf is. A partsuf is an emanated being. An emanated being. It actually means the word face, but don't misunderstand what that means. Why this thing called face? Because it has a sensation of the Creator, of the face of the Creator. It actually has a similarity in quality of form with the Creator. So it's able to sense the qualities of the Creator. Now, plural, partufim. Okay? Next on our diet here. Kilim. Another plural word. You all might remember about 2 classes ago we drew the kli with the masach and the light, the or yashar that strikes it, and it reflects off. It's now or hozir. Once the light is reflecting off, it means reflected light. It is a state of the light. There's only one light. It isn't that we have or yashar and then something totally different called or hozir. It's the same light, but now it's reflected off of a masach. That makes it or hozir. And then a calculation is made because this rosh part up here, that rosh is built right here out of this light on 5 levels, just like everything else. Keter, Hakma, Bina, Ziram, Pin, and Malchut. I can't write it small enough, that big of a eraser, but just assume that's what it says. And it calculates how much light can be taken into the parsuf, to the kli, for the express condition that will be received only in order to please the Creator. That's what this rosh part does. And it makes that calculation, and that amount of light goes in there. What is that? You all might remember it's called a kli. What's a kli? A vessel. A vessel. Something that holds something. A vessel. A cup. A vessel. It's actually not the Hebrew word for cup, but it means vessel. What is kilim? Like partsufim, it's more than one kli. More than one kli. Okay? Several vessels. Oh my goodness, we're going to tackle these right now? Garabina and Zadabina. Okay. All right. Gar dibina and Zat dibina. Let's talk about, we'll draw it over here. I think I can still draw it big enough where it can be seen. Everyone remembers the phases of direct light, right? 4 phases of direct light. There's Shorish, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and finally, Dalet. Now, we're not going to review all that, but anyone remember this one that's called Bet? Bina? And I'm going to be writing all over my page here, so pardon me for that, but I'm going to use some of the space. Let's enlarge it. Everyone remembers this section called Bina, I hope, because we've gone through it several different times, almost every time that we've had the lesson. And what is this stage called Bina? The stage called Bina is when the vessel, it felt this pleasure in stage Hakma, or Aleph, if you like, but it felt something else toward the end of it. It felt that there wasn't just pleasure, there's the giver of the pleasure, right? There's a giver involved here. So what's it going to do? because it feels the giver, it says, just like the 3-year-old that dresses up like Daddy with Daddy's boots, fireman's boots and fire cap on his head, or the 3-year-old girl that dresses up in her mama's high heels and has the purse and all of that. I used to watch my sister when she was young doing that, marching around the house with the high heels clanking and falling all over herself. And the whole desire is to be like Daddy, to be like Mama, to be like the parent, to be like the one that gives them what they need in order to live, in order to exist. So the vessel, what's it doing? Its desire is growing even bigger. It doesn't just want this other pleasure. It also wants to be like Daddy. It wants to be like Mama. This is a desire for pleasure, a pleasure from being like them, for higher status. And that is exactly what the desire is here in Bina. And what does it do? It stops receiving, right? But toward the end of the phase, remember this is the state of the same Kli now. Toward the end of the phase, it has 2 parts. Number 1 is, I don't have anything to give, and so I'm going to stop receiving. Nope, not taking anything. That's it, period, done. What's part 2 of this story, though? Part 2 is, it says, no, wait. I can't exist without pleasure. That ain't going to work. But yet I still want to be able to be like Daddy, to be like Mama. How am I going to do that? What's the way to possibly do this? There's only one answer. And that is that I will give, I will receive. But what's my problem here? Why can't I be like Dad? What's the problem? What's preventing it? I don't have anything to give. So the best thing I can do if I don't have anything is simply just to not take a blasted thing. That part where it's not going to take a blasted thing is called gar. That's the part of, do you want this? No. How about this? No. Well, how about no? I don't want anything. Period. Nothing. Well, surely you would like, no. I'll pass. This last part falls underneath that second category to where, okay, my problem is that I don't have anything to give to begin with. Now, if I had something to give, then I would be able to make this deal work out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to receive, but only in order to allow me to pass it on, to give it away. So that's called zat. Zat. So gar is, do you want? No. How about no? Will you take? No, thank you. What is that? Do you want? No. How about no? How about taking it to passing it on to somebody else? Yes. That I'll do. That I'll do. I'll do that in order to be, I will receive something, but in order to be able to give it, pass it on down the pipeline here. It's the only reason. That is zat. The first one, of not accepting anything, is gar. Accepting only what it can pass on is the state called zat. D, again, is Aramaic. It means of. So we have gar of Bina or gar de Bina and zat of Bina or zat de Bina. And those are what those two terms are. What do we got next? Tzimtzum Aleph. First restriction. Well, we're kind of all over the map here. Okay, we'll go through that. Who ordered these things the way they were ordered anyway? Okay. Well, we got a couple other interesting ones first. I think we've done Sphirot, I guess. We have not done Sphirot. We haven't done Sphirot? Better do that one. So, what do we know? In the Partsuf, we have the Rosh, the Talk, and the Sof. And we have Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Zer, Anpin, and Malchut, right? What are these? What are they? What they are called Sphirot. Sphirot. They're Kelim, literally. What does that mean? That means that they're Kelim with the quality of the light that would fulfill them. So I can kind of draw them this way too. They're vessels. They are vessels with a certain quality. They are vessels, and when everything is lined up right, this vessel, this kelim, this kli here, this sphirot, sphera actually, this sphera, has the property of keter, which means the property that matches the light. It wants the light that we talked about last week called yechida. And so on down there. And there's one for Haya, and there's one for Neshama and Ruach and Nefesh. So this Kli is for this light. They match. It matches. It wants the right thing and for the right reason. So, what we have here is a desire which is what a kli is. A kli is a desire for a kind of pleasure. What kind? The stuff called yechida, whatever that is. Think of it like you have 5 courses in a meal. And one might be for chicken, and one might be for salad, and one might be for, say, a vegetable. One might be for dessert. One might be for a drink. And they're all different. They're all different desires. In my desire for a drink, I cannot fulfill it with the chicken. So it's a problem. The right vessel needs the right filling. But it's a desire. It's a desire for pleasure. A kli. Now these are called Sephirot. Sphirot, actually. If I was going to write it accurately, it would be S:, Sphirot. Not Sephirot. Are we paused? There we go. Good. Not Sephirot, but Sphirot. And that would mean all of these. One is Sphira. Or you can even put an H on the end if it makes it easier to remember. Sphira. Sphira. Okay, what is next on our list here? No, we aren't to that stuff in the lessons yet. That could be bad. Let's go with these 2 words because we said them a moment ago and they tend to be of some confusion In fact, we may have already done it. Have we gone through Aviyut and Hitlev Shoot? We have? Good. Okay. Okay. So, Hazeh. What is the term Hazeh? I spell it this way. C-H-A Z-E-H with the emphasis here. Hazeh. And this really isn't a cha. I say it that way, but it's just kind of a strong H. Hazeh. Hazeh. Not chazeh. Okay? You'll see it written a lot just with H. Written like this. Hazeh. But it's the same thing. It's identical. What is the Hazeh? In our Partsuf, you might remember that we have Keter, Halkma, Bina. Well, let's do it differently. Let's do it this way. Keter, Halkma, Bina, Zeranpin, and Malchut. Now you might remember when we talked over here on the other side that in Bina there's a Gar part of Bina and a Zat part of Bina. And that means in this section right here, in this section, that we can draw that little vessel there, just like we had over there, and we can draw a little dividing line on there. And this upper part is called Gar. And this lower part is called Zat. And if you think about it, these vessels, Keter, Hakma, and the top part of Bina, they are exceptionally pure vessels. One is the thought of the Creator, the purpose for our very creation. Halkma is one of no choice at all, none. The light builds the vessel and fills it. It builds a desire and shoves light into it. This isn't a request situation. It isn't where the desire, where the kli is asking for anything. It builds the vessel and whoosh, in goes the light, period. It pleases it. Done, period, done, over. And in Gar, it's, do you want anything? No. How about no? There's no impurity there in any way, shape, or form. In other words, no desire for anything that is felt, that is sensed. Like I said, in this first state, it's the thought of the Creator. In the second state, it is where the Creator, or pardon me, where the vessel says, where the vessel is built, the light says, you're built, whoosh, in goes the pleasure. And the third one is, I don't want anything. In other words, they're all really properties in which the Kli had nothing to say about in any way, shape, or form, period. But from this line down, we start seeing something else develop. We start seeing that desire to bestow, the calculations being made where there's a desire to bestow to get what it wants, to get what it wants. So we have what we can call all the vessels from here to this line, altruistic. Like the Creator. Very similar, very pure vessels. Very, very pure vessels. And we can call all of the vessels from the line down or egoistic. Egoistic. This line right in between, dividing those, right there, that line is called hazeh. Hazeh. What does it really mean? It's a line across the chest. A line across the chest. Think of it that way. It's the simplest way to think of it. Okay. Now let's not do that yet. In Lesson 7 we have some terms, so let's look at those real quick. Now, we have another way of naming these. This Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Zeranpin, and Malchut. You sometimes say Keter, Chokmah, Bina, and Zon. Zon. What in the world is Zon? What happened to Zeranpin and Malchut? They're still there. They're still there. Zeranpin, Malchut. Keter, Chokmah, Bina, and Zeranpin and Malchut are considered Zon. Okay? So you know. So there's no confusion. So, if I wanted to take this section right here, I would call that Zon. Zon. Okay? Let's look at a different type of name for it. Keter, Chokmah, Bina. Just going to use the initials. Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Zeranpin, and Malchut. What's another way of talking about it? You'll see also that there's some other things listed here. Galgalta, did we use this yet?
This is
Hmm?
This is
Tonight's good. Okay. And I am. Ozen. Hotem. And Pei. Now, in truth, you can think of all these. They're all parts of the Rosh. Remember what Rosh means? It means head. Galgalta being the skull, cap, the skull. And Ayam meaning the eyes. Ozen, Hotem, and Pei are the ears, nose, and mouth. And mouth. So, keep in mind that just like over here, where there was a dividing line called the hazeh, there's also a dividing line here too. And this dividing line, this is called nikveh and ayam. So as you can see, the dividing lines change. Why? Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If you watch some of the lesson, you're going to discover, or if you read some of the lesson before you came for number 7, you noticed that the dividing lines were, or that the dividing line was there. That there is the term hazeh, that's in Galgalta, ab, sag, And in a way, it also talked about the same thing, but it was only in the Rosh. And so, when do we talk about the Nikveh and Ayam? We talk about the Nikveh and Ayam when we're only speaking about the Rosh of the Parsuf and how it would be divided. Why is that important? It's going to make a big difference with regard to where light goes below. You'll understand it a lot more during the lesson. I thought we had this one before, but apparently not. Zivug. Zivug is simple. Zivug is the coupling of the light with the Masach. The coupling of the light with the Masach. You can think of it a different way. It's the coupling, it's the meeting between, it is the joining of the creator and the creature. It's the action of them interacting. It's called zivug. Zivug. Very important word. It means coupling. You experience what we're talking about all the time. Every moment you're awake. All the time. When? My ear. And I've got a hole in my ear. And sound waves out here. And in this hole in my ear, in the middle of it, there's an eardrum. The sound enters the ear, strikes the eardrum, causing it to vibrate, and bounces off. And depending on the vibration of the eardrum, it determines how I interpret the sound, because different sound waves, my eardrum vibrates differently. It interprets it differently. So as you can see, it's very important. We have a lesson coming up here in 45 minutes. So we will be ending right now so we can prepare for that. It's important to note that we will not be having a terminology lesson next Sunday. No terminology lesson. And but we will continue. We'll see how it goes, but we'll probably have one the week after next Sunday. So until 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be right back with you. We will be finishing up Chapter 6 that we only did about half of last time, and we'll be going through Chapter 7. Until then, we'll see you in 45 minutes. Bye-bye.